I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about that moment that nobody understands. They all see the Instagram post I made afterward, the one where I'm laughing with my friends at brunch, mimosas raised, sunlight filtering through like everything was perfect. What they don't see is that I cried in my car for 40 minutes before that photo was taken. What they don't know is that I destroyed the best relationship I ever had over something so stupid, so petty, that I can barely admit it to myself even now. Here's what everyone thinks happened. My boyfriend Jake gave me a cheap gift. I rejected it because I'm materialistic, and he rightfully dumped me for being shallow. The comments on the Reddit thread about us said I was entitled, spoiled, probably raised by parents who gave me everything. Someone said I deserved to die alone. That one got 800 upvotes. But here's what nobody knows, what I've never told anyone, not even my best friend Maya, who knows literally everything else about me. The gift itself didn't matter. The price tag wasn't the problem. It was what that gift represented, what it proved about how little Jake had been paying attention to me for months. And the worst part, the part that makes me look terrible no matter how I explain it, is that I knew exactly what I was doing when I said those words. I knew they would hurt him. I wanted them to. If I don't tell this story the right way, you'll never understand why I'm not the villain everyone thinks I am. But I'm also not the hero. I'm somewhere in between, in that messy gray area where most of us actually live but nobody wants to admit exists. And once you know everything, including the thing Jake did 3 weeks before my birthday that I never told anyone about, you'll see why those 4 words came out of my mouth. Is this all? I can still see his face when I said it. The way his smile froze, then slowly melted like ice cream left in the sun. The way his hand, still holding out the small wrapped box, started to tremble just slightly. The way his eyes went from excited to confused to hurt to something I'd never seen before, something cold and final. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got there first, because the gift incident didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the culmination of 6 months of tiny disappointments, of me swallowing my words, of convincing myself I was being reasonable and mature, when really I was just building a wall of resentment brick by brick. Jake and I met 2 years ago at a friend's wedding. I know, very rom-com of us. He was the best man, I was a bridesmaid, and we both got way too drunk at the open bar and ended up talking until 4 in the morning in the hotel lobby. He told me about his job as a software engineer, about how he'd rather be writing fiction, but couldn't figure out how to make it financially viable. I told him about my work at the nonprofit, about how fulfilling it was, and how broke it kept me. We laughed about being broke together, about how we'd have to have dates at the Dollar Theater and make dinner at home. And for the first year, that's exactly what we did. It was perfect, honestly. We'd cook elaborate meals together in his tiny apartment, trying recipes from YouTube and usually failing in hilarious ways. We'd go on hikes instead of expensive restaurants. We'd have movie marathons with snacks from the convenience store. I fell in love with him during those months, genuinely and completely. He was thoughtful in ways that had nothing to do with money. He remembered that I liked my coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. He'd send me articles about topics I'd mentioned being interested in. He'd leave little notes in my bag when I stayed over, just things like, hope your meeting goes well, or you're going to kill that presentation. The thing is, and this is important, I've never cared about expensive things. My car is 12 years old, I buy most of my clothes secondhand. I think people who spend $300 on a purse are out of their minds. So when I say what happened wasn't about the money, I need you to believe me, it wasn't. But things started changing about 6 months before my birthday. Jake got a promotion at work, a big one. Suddenly he was making almost 3 times what he'd been making before, and I was happy for him, I really was. We went out to celebrate at a nice restaurant, his treat, and I thought it was sweet that he wanted to share his success with me. Except then things got weird. He started making these comments about my job, little things that felt like paper cuts. Must be nice to not have to worry about quarterly targets, he'd say when I talked about a difficult day. Or, I wish I could work somewhere where success wasn't measured in dollars. Always with a smile, always like he was joking, but there was an edge to it that made my stomach turn. He started suggesting we go to nicer restaurants, places where entrees cost $40 and the portions were tiny. When I said I'd rather save money and cook at home, he'd say, don't worry about it, I've got it. Like I was worried about his wallet and not the principle of the thing. Like our cozy nights cooking together hadn't been his idea just as much as mine. Just when I thought I was being too sensitive, that I should just appreciate that he wanted to treat me, things got worse. He started talking about his coworkers constantly. Mentioned this woman, Bree, at least 3 times a week. Bree made the funniest joke in the meeting today. Bree introduced me to this new podcast. Bree's training for a marathon, she's so disciplined. I thought I was being crazy at first. Everyone has coworkers they're friendly with, right? Maya told me I was overthinking it. But then I met Bree at his company's holiday party, and I understood. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are, like she woke up looking put together. She worked in product management, made probably close to what Jake made, wore designer clothes that fit her perfectly. When Jake introduced us, she looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Pity, amusement, something that made me feel small and shabby in my Target dress. The worst part was watching Jake with her. He laughed differently at her jokes, leaned in when she talked. Nothing inappropriate, nothing I could point to and say, there, that's evidence. Just this subtle shift in his energy that made me feel like I was watching my boyfriend be interested in someone else and being gaslit about it at the same time. I didn't say anything that night. I smiled and made small talk and pretended everything was fine. On the drive home, Jake talked about how fun the party was, how great his coworkers were, how happy he was at this company. I said I was glad and stared out the window. Here's where I need to tell you about the thing that happened 3 weeks before my birthday, the thing that makes the gift situation make more sense, even if it doesn't excuse what I said. Jake and I were supposed to have dinner at my place. I'd planned this whole evening because we'd been so busy we'd barely seen each other. I bought ingredients for his favorite meal, got his favorite beer, even cleaned my apartment, which I hate doing. He was supposed to come over at 7. At 6:45 he texted, so sorry, emergency at work. Bree and I have to fix this major bug before tomorrow's presentation. We'll make it up to you this weekend, promise. I sat there on my couch, surrounded by ingredients, wearing the dress I'd put on for him, and something inside me just cracked. Not broke, not yet, but definitely cracked. Because it wasn't an emergency, I knew it wasn't. Software bugs happen, sure, but the way he phrased it, Bree and I, like they were a unit, like this was just another adventure for them to tackle together. I texted back, no problem, good luck. Because what else do you say? I think you're having an emotional affair and using work as an excuse. I had no proof. Just this terrible feeling in my gut that I was losing him in slow motion. That weekend, he did try to make it up to me. Took me to an expensive steakhouse, the kind with dim lighting and leather booths. And here's the thing that everybody who judges me doesn't understand: I would have traded that $200 meal for him showing up to eat my homemade pasta. I would have traded it for him putting his phone down and looking at me the way he used to. I would have traded it for him asking me anything about my life beyond surface-level pleasantries. But I didn't say any of that. I thanked him for dinner, told him the steak was amazing, went home and cried in the shower where nobody could hear me. Everyone online thought I was fine, of course. I posted a picture of the steak with the caption, treated by the best boyfriend, and got 100 likes. Maya commented, relationship goals, with heart eye emojis. If you looked at my Instagram, you'd think I was living a fairy tale. You wouldn't see the screenshots I had saved of his texts, the ones I kept reading over and over, counting how many times he mentioned Bree. You wouldn't know that I'd started having anxiety dreams about him leaving me, that I'd wake up at 3 a.m. in a panic and check my phone to see if he'd texted. My birthday was on a Saturday. Jake had been building it up for weeks, saying he had something special planned, that I was going to love my gift. And despite everything, despite all my anxieties and doubts, part of me got hopeful. Maybe this was when things would go back to normal. Maybe he'd gotten me something that showed he really knew me, really saw me. Not something expensive, just something that proved he'd been paying attention. The day started off nice enough. He took me to breakfast at this cute cafe I'd mentioned wanting to try months ago. Points for remembering that, at least. Then we went for a walk in the park, held hands, talked about nothing important. He seemed distracted, kept checking his phone. When I asked if everything was okay, he said he was just making sure the restaurant reservation for dinner was confirmed. We went back to his place in the afternoon. He said he wanted to give me my present before dinner, seemed excited about it. And despite everything, I felt that little flutter of hope again. Stupid, right? After everything I'd noticed, every red flag, I was still hoping this gift would somehow fix things. He handed me a small box, wrapped in silver paper with a white bow. The wrapping was nice, I'll give him that. Professional, like he'd had it done at the store. I opened it carefully, still smiling, still hopeful. Inside was a necklace. A simple silver chain with a small pendant, a generic heart shape. I recognized it immediately because I'd seen the same one at the jewelry counter at Target when I was there the week before. It cost $29, which I remembered because I'd looked at it and thought it was pretty but not quite my style. I thought I was fixing things when I looked up at him when I opened my mouth to thank him. But really, I was about to burn everything down, and some part of me knew it. Some part of me wanted to. "Is this all?" I said, just 4 words. 4 stupid words that I could have swallowed, should have swallowed. 4 words that I've replayed in my head approximately 10,000 times since then, trying to imagine the alternate universe where I just said thank you and put on the necklace and we went to dinner and I never knew if things could have been different. The look on his face. God, the look on his face. I've never felt so powerful and so horrible at the same time. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice quiet, careful, and I could have backtracked. I could have said, "Oh, I just meant is there another part to the gift?" or literally anything else that would have smoothed it over. But I didn't, because in that moment, all the resentment from the past 6 months, all the swallowed comments and ignored gut feelings and pretending everything was fine came bubbling up like poison. "I mean, is this all you got me? A $29 necklace from Target." His face went red. "You know what it cost? I saw it there last week. I'm not stupid, Jake. I thought you'd like it. It's simple, elegant, that's your style." "My style?" I laughed, and it came out mean bitter. "You don't know anything about my style. If you did, you'd know I don't even wear heart-shaped jewelry. You'd know I prefer gold to silver. You'd know literally anything about me beyond the bare minimum." "That's not fair," he said, but his voice had that defensive edge that told me I'd hit something true. "What's not fair is you spending more on a single dinner than on my birthday gift. What's not fair is you canceling on me to work late with Bree but finding time to go to her marathon last month. Yeah, I saw the picture she posted. You were there, cheering her on a Sunday when you told me you had to visit your parents." His eyes widened. "You're going through her social media, that's insane. What's insane is you having an emotional affair and acting like I'm crazy for noticing." "I'm not having an affair. Bree is my coworker and my friend, that's it. I can't believe you're making this about her when you're the one being materialistic and shallow about a gift I picked out for you." That word, shallow, hit me like a slap. Because wasn't that what I was being? Wasn't that exactly what everyone would think if they could hear this conversation? But I couldn't stop. "It's not about the money, Jake, it's about effort. It's about you actually knowing who I am." "I do know you." "Really? Okay, what's my favorite book?" He stared at me. "What am I allergic to? What's my biggest fear? What do I want to do with my career in 5 years? Where did I grow up?" "I know where you grew up," he said weakly. "You grew up in the Midwest somewhere." "Pennsylvania, Jake. I grew up in Pennsylvania, which is the Northeast. I've told you about my hometown probably 50 times. I've showed you pictures. So I got one geographic detail wrong. That makes me a terrible boyfriend." "No, what makes you a terrible boyfriend is that you've checked out of this relationship completely and you're too cowardly to just end it. You'd rather make me feel crazy and needy and materialistic until I end it for you." The silence after that was deafening. We just stared at each other and I watched something shift in his expression. The defensiveness drained away, replaced by something colder. "You know what?" he said quietly. "You're right." My stomach dropped. I'd expected him to argue more, to defend himself. I didn't expect agreement. "I am checked out," he continued. "Because you're exhausting, you know that. Everything is a test with you. Every gift, every date, every conversation is me trying to prove something that I can never quite prove enough. I thought this necklace was nice. I thought you'd appreciate it. Apparently, I should have known that it needed to be gold, not silver and not heart-shaped, and from somewhere other than Target, and probably cost exactly the right amount that proves I care but doesn't make you feel like I'm trying to buy your affection. How am I supposed to win? Maybe by actually paying attention to me." My voice was getting loud now, shrill. I hated how I sounded. "Maybe by asking me questions about my life. Maybe by not canceling our plans to hang out with another woman. I canceled one time for a work emergency. One time, and you're acting like I cheated on you. Maybe you didn't physically cheat, but emotionally." "Don't," he cut me off. "Don't try to make this about Bree. This is about you and your insecurity and your inability to just be happy with what you have. I've been a good boyfriend. I've been supportive and kind and patient even when you're in one of your moods. But apparently that's not enough. Nothing is ever enough for you." Each word felt like a knife. Especially because part of me wondered if he was right. Was I being too demanding, too needy? Was I making problems where there weren't any? "Just take your necklace back," I said, shoving the box toward him. "Since you think I'm so ungrateful." He looked at the box, then at me, and something in his eyes went dead. "Fine," he said. He took the box, closed it with a sharp snap, and put it in his pocket. "You know what? I think we're done here. I think we're done with all of this." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be with someone who looks at every gift like it's a test I'm failing. I don't want to walk on eggshells wondering if I'm paying enough attention, giving enough compliments, saying the right things. I'm tired. I'm just tired. I felt tears starting, hot and angry. So that's it, you're breaking up with me on my birthday. You're the one who rejected my gift and accused me of having an affair. What did you think was going to happen? I thought you'd fight for us. I thought you'd acknowledge that you haven't been present in this relationship for months. I've been busy with work. I got a huge promotion. I have more responsibilities. I can't be available every single second of every day. I never asked you to be. I just asked you to show up when you said you would and to actually care about my life. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch. I need you to leave. Are you serious right now? Completely. Please leave. I stood there frozen, unable to believe this was actually happening. Part of me wanted to apologize, to take it all back, to beg him to reconsider. But the other part of me, the angry, hurt part, wanted to burn everything down even more thoroughly. Fine, I said. I grabbed my purse and walked to the door, turned back to look at him one more time. He was just standing there, jaw clenched, looking at everything except me. You never answered my question, I said. What question? What's my favorite book? He closed his eyes. Just go. So I did. I walked out of his apartment and got in my car and sat there, gripping the steering wheel, unable to cry, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya: birthday brunch tomorrow. Can't wait to celebrate you. I started laughing then, this horrible, hysterical sound. Celebrate me. Celebrate the fact that I just nuked my relationship over a $29 necklace. Celebrate the fact that my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, didn't know my favorite book was Jane Eyre, even though I'd told him about it on our third date, even though I quoted it sometimes, even though there was a copy on my bedside table literally every time he'd stayed over. Or maybe he did know and just wasn't going to give me the satisfaction in that moment. I've thought about that possibility a lot. That makes me even angrier somehow. I didn't go home that night. I drove to Maya's place and she let me in without questions, made me tea, let me cry on her couch. I didn't tell her what happened exactly, just that Jake and I had broken up. She said all the right friend things. He wasn't good enough for me anyway. I deserved better, his loss. The next morning, I put on my best outfit, did my makeup, and went to birthday brunch with my friends. I smiled and laughed and ordered bottomless mimosas, and took that picture, the one where I look happy and carefree and like everything's fine. Maya took it at just the right angle, with the sunlight streaming in, and I posted it with a caption about gratitude and new chapters. The comments were exactly what you'd expect: gorgeous. Happy birthday, beautiful. Living your best life. If only they knew I'd cried in my car for 40 minutes in the parking lot before walking into that restaurant. If only they knew I'd checked my phone every 30 seconds, hoping Jake had texted to apologize, to take it back, to say he'd overreacted. He hadn't. He didn't text that day, or the next day, or any day after that. I waited a week before I texted him, can we talk about what happened? He responded 3 hours later, I don't think there's anything to talk about. I think we both said what we needed to say. I don't want to break up, we can work through this. I don't think we can. I'm sorry, and that was it. 2 years gone because of 4 words and a necklace from Target. Except it wasn't really about the necklace, was it? It was about everything that came before, all the little moments that added up, all the ways we'd been slowly disconnecting and neither of us wanted to admit it. The necklace was just the match that lit the fuse. I spent the next month in a fog. Went to work, came home, watched Netflix, slept, repeated. Maya kept trying to get me to go out, to meet new people, to get back out there, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about what Jake had said, about me being too demanding, too needy, never satisfied. Was he right? Was I impossible to please? I asked Maya one night after too much wine. Do you think I'm difficult to be in a relationship with? She'd looked at me carefully, choosing her words. I think you have high standards, that's not a bad thing. But am I too demanding? Did Jake say that? Basically, yeah. Well, Jake also thought it was appropriate to spend more time with his female coworker than his girlfriend, so maybe his opinion isn't the most valuable. But what if he was right? What if I nitpick everything and make people feel like they're never good enough? Maya had taken my hand then. You know what your actual problem is. You don't ask for what you need until you're already resentful. Then it comes out all at once and everyone thinks you're crazy. But you're not crazy. You just need to learn to speak up earlier, before things build up. She wasn't wrong. I had swallowed so many small disappointments, so many moments of feeling unseen, and then I'd exploded over a necklace. If I'd told Jake a month in that his comments about my job bothered me, if I'd said something the first time he canceled plans for Bree, if I'd just been honest about feeling disconnected instead of pretending everything was fine, maybe things would have turned out differently. Or maybe not. Maybe Jake was already halfway out the door and I just gave him an excuse to leave. I'll never know. 2 months after the breakup, I saw that Bree had posted a picture on Instagram. She was at a concert laughing, and if you looked closely at the background, you could see Jake. Just partially in the frame, but definitely him. The date on the post was from 2 weeks after our breakup. I showed Maya my hands shaking. Look, I wasn't crazy, they're together. But Maya surprised me. Or they're coworkers who went to a concert. You're torturing yourself looking at her page. He's in the background, 2 weeks after we broke up. Even if they did get together right after, that doesn't mean you were wrong to end things. If he had feelings for her, that's not your fault. You deserve someone who's all in. I ended things, though. I'm the one who said, "Is this all?" I'm the one who rejected his gift. Yeah, because you were hurting and you'd been hurt for months and you finally hit your limit. Stop making yourself the villain. But I felt like the villain. I am the villain in most people's version of this story, because somehow the story got out. I don't know if Jake told people or if someone who knew both of us pieced things together, but within a month, I started hearing through mutual friends that everyone knew I dumped Jake over a cheap gift. Someone posted about it on Reddit, didn't use our names but included enough details that people who knew us would know. The thread got thousands of comments, all calling me materialistic, spoiled, shallow. Someone found my Instagram and posted it, and I started getting DMs from strangers telling me I was everything wrong with modern women. I made my account private and tried to ignore it, but you can't really ignore thousands of people agreeing that you're a terrible person. It seeps into your brain, makes you question everything about yourself. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I ran into Jake at a coffee shop. It had been 3 months since the breakup. He was with Bree. They weren't holding hands or anything, but there was an ease between them, a familiarity that made my chest tight. He saw me, and for a second we just looked at each other. Then he nodded, just this tiny acknowledgement, and turned back to his conversation with her. Didn't come over, didn't say hi, just nodded like I was a stranger he vaguely recognized. I ordered my coffee and left as quickly as I could, and I thought I was fine until I got to my car and started sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. Because in that moment, I understood that I really had lost him, that there was no going back, no fixing it, no universe where we could recapture what we'd had in those early days. I thought I was fixing things when I confronted him about the necklace, but really I was ending them. And maybe that needed to happen. Maybe we were already broken and I just finally acknowledged it. But it still hurts. It still feels like I took something good and destroyed it with my own hands. The thing nobody tells you about breakups is that you can be both right and wrong at the same time. I was right that Jake had checked out, right that he wasn't paying attention to me, right that something was off with him and Bree. But I was also wrong in how I handled it, wrong to let resentment build until it exploded, wrong to make it about the necklace instead of the real issues. Everyone wants relationships to be simple, wants there to be a clear good guy and bad guy. But it's messier than that. Jake wasn't a villain for slowly falling out of love with me. I wasn't a villain for noticing and being hurt by it. We were both just people who stopped being able to make each other happy, and neither of us wanted to admit it until I forced the issue in the worst possible way. It's been 6 months now. Jake and Bree are officially together, according to Facebook. They look happy in their photos, hiking and trying new restaurants and doing all the things he and I used to do. It stings, seeing it, but less than it used to. I've started therapy, which probably should have happened years ago. My therapist says I have anxious attachment and a tendency to catastrophize, which, yeah, sounds about right. I'm working on asking for what I need before I get resentful. I'm working on trusting my gut, but also not letting my anxiety turn every small concern into a relationship-ending crisis. I'm working on being okay with being alone, which is harder than it sounds. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I'd just said thank you for the necklace. If I'd put it on and smiled and gone to dinner, and dealt with my feelings some other way, in therapy or in a calm conversation a week later. Would we have lasted? Would he have eventually left me for Bree anyway? Would I have wasted another year with someone who wasn't fully present? I don't know. I'll never know. And I'm learning to be okay with that uncertainty, even though it's uncomfortable. The worst part about what happened isn't that everyone thinks I'm shallow and materialistic. It's not even that I lost Jake. The worst part is that I proved his point. He said nothing was ever good enough for me, and then I rejected his gift and proved him right. Even though that wasn't really what was happening, even though it was about so much more than the necklace, that's what it looked like from the outside. That's what it will always look like. I'm telling this story now because I need someone to understand the context, to see the bigger picture. I need someone to acknowledge that sometimes you can do the wrong thing for the right reasons, or the right thing in the wrong way, and it all gets so tangled up that you can't separate the threads anymore. Was I wrong to say, "Is this all?" Yes, absolutely. It was cruel and petty, and I wish I could take it back. But was I wrong to be hurt that my boyfriend didn't know my favorite book after 2 years? Wrong to feel disconnected and unseen? Wrong to notice that he was pulling away and developing feelings for someone else? No, I don't think I was wrong about any of that. The gift itself didn't matter. The price tag didn't matter. What mattered was that after 2 years, he picked something generic that could have been for anyone, while I'd spent weeks planning what to get him for his birthday, had gotten him a first edition of his favorite novel from a rare bookstore, something that showed I paid attention to his dreams of being a writer. But I never got to give him that gift, because his birthday was 2 weeks after mine and we'd broken up by then. I still have it actually. It's in my closet, wrapped and ready. I keep meaning to return it, but I haven't yet. Maybe it's pathetic, keeping it. Or maybe it's a reminder that I was capable of thoughtfulness, that I wasn't the villain in every moment of our relationship, just in the final one. I don't expect forgiveness from Jake or from anyone reading this. I'm not looking for validation, or for someone to tell me I was right all along. I just need you to understand that it's complicated. That relationships end in messy, imperfect ways, and sometimes both people are hurt, and both people contributed to the hurt, and there's no clean resolution where everyone learns their lesson and grows as a person. Sometimes you just lose someone you loved because you were both broken in incompatible ways. Sometimes you say something in anger that you can never take back. Sometimes a $29 necklace becomes the symbol of everything wrong with your relationship, and you can't explain that to strangers on the internet without sounding exactly like the person they think you are. If I could go back, would I handle it differently? Absolutely. But I can't. All I can do is move forward, try to be better, try to learn from my mistakes without letting them define me forever. Jake took back his gift and hasn't spoken to me since. That's the simple version of the story, the one that makes me look terrible. But now you know the complicated version, the one where I'm not innocent but not entirely guilty either, where I made a terrible mistake in a moment of pain that had been building for months. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm just asking you to understand that I'm human, flawed and messy and sometimes cruel when I'm hurting. Just like everyone else. Just like Jake. Just like you, that's all I wanted to say. That's the whole truth, finally told. Make of it what you will.